The thing that really jumped out at me about triathlon was that awesome vibe that you get when you go to a local triathlon. I was in it purely for the love of it, and that's a theme that I've tried to carry throughout my entire career. I was sitting around after watching a lot of Red Bull videos on other professional athletes and thinking, man, I just really wish that I could watch something like this on some professional triathletes who I look up to and respect. And no one was doing it. And I was like, triathlon's pretty cool. It's multifaceted. And if somebody with the knowledge would come in and do this, it would really elevate the sport. And after kind of waiting and nothing happening, I just decided to kind of take it on myself. I started out in the sport just doing it for fun. It was a contrast to swimming, which was pretty intense and regimented. I can still distinctly remember my first triathlon running on the 5K with taped up sneakers so they wouldn't fall off, and some lady telling me, hey, you should come by this running store that I own and I'll get you some shoes. That's what I mean when I say like the community is super strong, and I feel like I owe so much to it, and I want to give as much back to it if that's ever possible, as much as I've gotten from it. I've always been really into telling stories. I ended up finding video pretty late. It represented just an amazing storytelling outlet. It's like writing a journal. Every time that something feels kind of significant, I'll shoot it, and I've kind of found the best way for me to do it is to share anything. Even if one person gets something out of it, then it's a huge win for me. The week before a race, you're kind of laying low, and it's just to mentally get ready to bring the best effort that you can on that day. And I think that's probably why I end up doing a lot of videos that were built into races, because I have more energy all of a sudden, creativity comes back, and I can kind of tell a story of the city that I'm in and the race that I'm getting ready to do. The volume, the amount of load that we do in training is exhausting, and when you're exhausted, the creativity kind of like falls off the map.
I'm out of epic things to say, I got tired.
Sometimes that can be a frustrating time for me, is when I'm trying to put together a video or get it done because it's building up to a race, except I'm under the biggest volume that I am all year, and all I want to do is take a nap, but yet I have to go put in a little bit of time tweaking this sound or something. I, for lack of a better word, dropped out of college after like 2.5 years, basically because I was sort of in college to run cross country and track and figure out what I was doing in the meantime. And I wasn't getting any closer to figuring out what I wanted to do. So I decided to step away from that and pursue triathlon. And as I was kind of starting down that road more towards being a professional triathlete, I came into the triathlon shop, was just kind of looking at bikes, and I talked to one of the owners, Scott, and I was getting ready to walk out of the store. I said, well, when I find a job, like I'll come back and I'll buy a bike from you because I really need to get a little bit better bike and everything. It was like 3 or 4 days later, I got an email from Scott and it said, hey, would you want to work at the shop? And this was, it was like kind of a dream job at the time. It was the beginning of an incredible relationship that has gone from me sweeping floors to eventually transitioning out of working in the shop into being a full-time athlete, and they have supported me through that entire process. For me, video is my way to give back to the sport. Video can be a bit more raw, and it can have a little bit more emotion to it versus trying to cram something into 140 characters and have your personality come out, your wit come out, and still say something that's relevant is a bit more of a struggle. My #1 goal in the sport is to leave it better than I found it. I spend equal amounts of time reading and watching YouTube videos on how to edit a certain way or do a certain type of cut, and it all kind of comes back to that self-improvement and trying to bring something cooler to the sport. For anybody who's looking to get into video, look at it as a growth process and something that's never going to be done. It's something that you're always going to have to keep working on and getting better at. Be ready to throw yourself fully into it is what I would say, and kind of be along for that ride, because it is fun and it's worth it, but it's a lot of work.